The order at 7:05. We are meeting in person and making this meeting available via Zoom for the convenience of the public. Since we are meeting in person, we will not be responsible for any technical difficulties. So if you would like to be sure of participating, please attend the...
Excuse me, Mike Van Dusen, 120 House Street, Extension. You guys turn the sound on your end?
Sorry, that's my fault. Yep, it's on, sorry.
Thank you.
The first technical difficulty.
First thing we're going, that one we are.
I gotcha.
Roll call vote. I'll be acting as chair tonight because Andy Fairbank is sick. He won't be here. To my left, Robert Collins. And to the far left is Jared Lungin. So we do have to have 3 people to have a quorum, so we will have a quorum tonight. So, is he on?
Yes, I am.
Oh, hi, Don. That's good. Everybody want to rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time, we're going to open or continue the public hearing for petition number 586/R24, Ray Robert, renewal of special permit regarding heavy manufacturing and other operations permitted on the property at 190 Hubbard Ave, Dalton, Mass. Assessors Map 144, lots 8 and 9. So I know we've already heard a lot of testimony on this, but we do have a couple of things to add. There was a question about one of the members' eligibility because his lawyer is the same lawyer as Ray. So the attorney's opinion on this is as long as the board member does not have a financial interest in the outcome of the matter, they can join the deliberations and the decision. Also, the attorney will have to make his own call on whether he can represent a client whose interests may be at odds with another client. So Don Davis can join the deliberations and the decision on this in this public hearing. The other thing I'd like to read is a letter from the building commissioner, zoning enforcement officer, to the planning board. I'm writing this letter as the town zoning enforcement officer and would like to recommend to the board a condition to the special permit renewal being issued to Mr. Robert for his activities at 190 Hubbard Avenue. I understand the DEP has granted Mr. Permit. Yes? I understand the DEP has granted Mr. Robert a permit to process ABC material and has set time restrictions on when these activities need to end. Currently, they must end at 4:30 p.m. I would suggest that the board consider adding a stipulation that all crushing activities follow the same timeline and end at 4:30 p.m. As well as due to the fact that the sound that the crushing machine makes, it is the same for rocks as it is for ABC material. It'd help if I put my glasses. It would appear that the state has determined that 4:30 is suitable time to end these activities as they can be disruptive to the surrounding neighborhoods and the town should have the same consideration. Also, it becomes hard to do proper enforcement if the sounds that are indistinguishable from one another. Run the ball. So unless there's any additional information that we haven't already heard or received, yes,
Can I just say one thing?
sure.
Richard Hall, 164 Green Ridge. Ray Roberts gave me a plan, and I totally agree with what your the Vol's saying, is that it's very confusing. Every piece has a different time, stop and start. If I sit outside my door, I'm not going to know where the noise is coming from. So it should be the start and finish, one time across the whole thing. My opinion. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody? Yes.
I just want to deal with an absence of, Mr. Attorney.
Absence of who?
Your board member.
Mr. Andy?
Andy, yeah.
Okay.
Does this require 4 out of 5?
No, of course, 3 and 5.
3 out of 5. Are you going to deliberate tonight without him?
Yes, we are.
I'd ask that you not. I think that he's heard the first significant part of this, and I think he should be entitled to deliberate.
It's his last meeting.
Well, we've already delayed this permit way too long, as it is, 6 months almost.
Yeah.
If we delay it another, it'll be 4 months. If we delay it again, it'll be 5 months. I don't think we need to delay it. I think the people that are here can make do the deliberations and make the decision.
Okay, so with that, I just note that objection for the record. And I want to make sure that in the first meeting, you all had asked us to try to provide a little more simplicity and clarity in terms of what Ray was asking for. And I can tell you that, and I'm sure you have our version of the proposed revised special conditions. And I want to point out that what we've tried to do, and I think is very significant, is we've bisected the property so that at least half of it now, what we describe as Area D in that plan, the closest area to the residences, we're saying that with regard to that area, we're asking for no changes at all in the existing special permit in terms of the activities of the time. And what we are asking for is some relief in terms of really loading and unloading activities and some additional time to do topsoil processing. Topsoil processing is in fact a fundamentally different activity than rock crushing. Rock crushing, I understand, is a particular concern. I will point out that when folks talk about the sound is sort of irrelevant to your permit because the sound is separately regulated by your bylaw. It's outside of the scope of the special permit. And if there are sound violations, they can always be enforced. So if someone's saying they're concerned about sound, that really is not relevant necessarily to this permit. And so we think it's more about the activities. We propose to push the activities as far away from the residential area as we possibly can. And really in this application, Ray is effectively asking that the existing permit be renewed with a couple of what we consider to be relatively minor modifications in terms of allowing him additional time to do some trucking activities, which quite honestly, I'm not even conceding that the trucking activities are necessarily subject to being permitted because this is a commercial zone. If what he's going to do is bring in a truck and use a loader, I don't think on any commercial property in town, if a property owner was going to use a truck and load topsoil, I don't think that the bylaw requires that person to have a special permit. But that said, we're proposing some additional hours for that, the way it's described now.
Yeah.
And the only other thing we're really asking is, if you look at the plan in what we call Area B, we're asking for some additional time during the summertime hours, which is when people try to make a living, to do the topsoil processing and the topsoil screening in that area, which we identify as Area B, which is very far away from the residential properties that have had issues with this. So I ask that the board approve the special permit We've proposed a series of conditions which we think are certainly appropriate, to the extent that some of the times may be more expansive than what you're comfortable with. I understand that. But I would point out that Ray's really not asking for a lot. He's simply asking for a little bit of additional time, primarily to do the trucking activity. Customer wants to have the truck loaded later on than is currently allowed, or to do some additional processing. We are not asking for additional time for rock crushing. I'd also point out as to the building inspector's comment, we've lived now, how many years, Ray? With the 6 o'clock time, what's the time frame for it?
6 o'clock has been 4 years, since what, 2021?
So the 6 o'clock time frame for the rock crushing beyond ABC, or ABC processing, has existed now for several years. There have been no complaints, there's been no violations on that. So, we don't see any particular reason to cut that back to 4:30 when it hasn't created any issues. Any questions?
For them, or,
I think for us.
okay,
For us.
yeah, if you guys don't have any other questions, or need any other information, I would,
I will ask a question to either attorney or to Ray. Our building enforcement officer, zoning enforcement officer has made a suggestion to us for the ease, let's face it, it's quote, the ease of patrolling and enforcement. I find, as much as I see how you've broken the law down, and I understand the principle behind this, what I find very difficult is, how is the building inspector supposed to go down there and figure out where that blue line is that goes through Ray's lot? And is he on the right side? I don't want to make this more complicated for enforcement and or for Ray.
Well, he knows whether, at this point, the building inspector clearly knows what is ABC crushing and what is regular rock crushing. And so the only thing he's talking about in his letter, he's not talking about the screening or the loading or anything else. He's only talking about crushing, right? He's saying crushing should be 4:30, is really what he's saying. The interesting thing about that is crushing the smaller rocks has been until 6 o'clock now for many years, without complaint, without violation. So what is the point in bringing that back?
So the 6 o'clock mark was agreed upon even by Ray Roberts himself.
When there was that litigation, okay?
Yeah,
And it came back.
and there have been some complaints and recorded violations.
But not as to ABC rock, not as to rock crushing, and there's been no violations found on rock crushing.
Well, I guess I look at it as a complaint versus rock crushing and I see this is all Ray Roberts, everything but the blue folder. This is Ray, a lot of Ray. I've read everything 2 and 3 times. I find that my biggest problem with all the letters, Ray's, even in some of Ray's letters with the rock crushing, it's very difficult for the neighbors that are in the neighborhood to distinguish, and I understand this permit for ABC versus stone, but it's very difficult for the people in the neighborhood that have come to us and have wrote the letters and complaining of the noise to figure out if he's crushing ABC or if he's crushing stone. It's pretty much the same noise.
That was the point I brought up.
The screener, on the other hand, is a whole other beast that's over in the corner. And help me out here, guys. We see anything here that the screener was a annoyance on as much as the crushing. People always say that the loud crushing.
The crushing and unloading
And unloading.
of vehicles after his required hours.
So in my mind, as there's been no physical ticket to Ray, we have had complaints. There's been no tickets warranted that have been giving, or warnings, or however you want to look at it. But at the same time, we can't say that there has been no complaints about the rock crushing.
I have to say, I don't think that's fair. To say that if somebody complains and that complaint isn't substantiated and you're gonna rely on that is just really not fair.
I mean, I do have a report here from the police department dating back as far back as 2017 that they had received 19 police logs and 9 of them were violations.
Can I,
9 of 19, so that's 10 that weren't.
did you research those 19?
I trust the police
Well, that-
chief here.
They didn't know how to read them. Look at the submission I put, an analysis of those police call logs. Many of those were during regular business hours. And 2 of the calls were my calls that I made to the police department reporting stolen goods, and they put them in there as violations.
Right, that would be of the 10 that were not violations, I imagine.
Look at the rest of
Okay,
them. Look at the,
I don't want to get into a big argument about who said, what said.
Right.
that was 8 years
If
ago.
you have something new to present, you can present it, otherwise we need to move on.
I think it's
Yes,
totally
Dave?
unfair to cut the hours back on rock crushing at this point, when that was the result of the lawsuit, it was the result of that negotiation, it was agreed to even by the abutters that were most involved, and to cut it back is problematic.
Okay.
Plus, it was a plea by the complainant to suggested 6 o'clock.
So,
The complainant himself.
Yeah, and that's what that was my next
We
thing. I was gonna
conceded
go
to
to.
that and agreed to that. Not only that, but 3 lawyers, the
Yep.
complainant's lawyer, my lawyer,
and the
judge,
township.
and the town's attorney, all conferred and
So,
researched that, and they compared the hours of BCC to that too, and that weighed in on it, which is 6:45 a.m. to 5:15, which is a 10-hour workday, which is standard in the construction industry. 10-hour workday is what I have with a half-hour lunch, which is 7 to 6, which is 10 and a half hours essentially.
so
Can I ask one question? I do want to ask in reference to your ABC work and the other question. Do you do your ABC work 3 days a week?
It varies. It depends on the load and the demand for ABC. It depends what comes in. And those,
So can you say maybe you've done it 4 or 5 days a week?
sometimes 5 days,
I
sometimes.
believe I read your DEP permit says you can only do it 3 days a week out of 5 day. You can do it Monday through Friday, but you're only allowed to do it 3 days a week.
Also, I'm not sure.
You might want to read your DEP permit to stay within line on
I
that.
very seldom, if never, do it.
And my other question is, now, I didn't say I was gonna go to that 4:30 recommendation, right? Well, none of us have said
I
that,
know.
right? We were given another article of information here, so, I just want to know, because I have a lot of evidence here that you agreed to your 6 o'clock, and they agreed to 6 o'clock, and then that was what litigation agreed. So,
Huge, that was a huge.
huge thing. So I wonder why you're asking for additional time
For the other.
after.
For the other activities.
For other
The-
activities.
The problem is that everything's been focusing on the rock crushing, right? 6 o'clock rock crushing.
Changing
And what Ray is really asking for is some relief on the other activities on a commercial property. The earth screening, there's other earth screening businesses right there in that neighborhood. It's a completely different activity than rock crushing. We're asking for some additional time for that. And as for, loading and unloading, if you have a customer who's coming in and wants a load of gravel or topsoil, the hours that exist because of the rock crushing limitation is very restrictive on the business. So that's why we try to chunk up the property, why we try to make a distinction between what I would agree is more in the character of the heavy commercial manufacturing, heavy commercial activities, which is what the zoning bylaw permit is really about. The other activities that we're talking about, things like wood splitting or, you know, using a loader to put gravel in a truck, I wouldn't even conceive that you would need a special permit to do those activities in a commercial district. I just don't, and I think that we've agreed, you know, we're trying to create some parameters and some expectations about hours, but it seems to be very onerous to me in a commercial district to say a guy can't use a loader to load a dump truck in a commercial district, within the zone, within the noise parameters of town.
Okay, we've heard all that before. Let's,
Can I have one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Can I ask why you're asking for 30 feet on your stockpiles, which is 10 feet higher than your previously allowed height?
To save room. Save room, and actually, the more you cone a pile, the more you can keep it consolidated, and keeps the weeds down, invasive weeds that are, you know, a terrible thing.
okay, I think we had a couple of questions. Dave?
Yeah, Dave 2, 140 River Drive. In looking at this issue and considering our issue in our neighborhood, one of the things we're going to be asking for, I think it's pertinent here, whether it's 436, 537, whatever. There are monitoring systems for dust that the town can be reading, and there are certainly systems to track sound, decibels. To your point, the officer can't be there. And I have to imagine, based on what you said, at least half the complaints were legitimized by the police department. So I think in any case where there's this type of activity, mining, separating, whatever, in our town of Dalton, I think part of the permitting process should be some kind of monitoring system so that it's not the contractor, it's not to say the contractor, it's not to say the neighborhood, it's data that you can just look at and it's factual. The fact that you are relying on neighbors' complaints, to me that's real. Our complaints are real too. People don't go out of their way to make a complaint. People just want to live their lives. So complaints come from a sense of annoyance, maybe a health concern. That's the premise of a complaint. It's not one of trying to get somebody in trouble. And there's lots of other things all of us in this room would be doing if permits were followed and better monitoring was in place. Thanks.
I have another question in the back.
Yes, Karen McCaffey, 8 Cumberland Circle. Mr. Roberts wants to go from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. in Lot 9. The hearing of the trucks, industrial trucks, backing up, beep, beep, beep. Ever hear of a truck unloading the soil, the rocks, and then the tailgate going, bang, bang? What, 6 a.m. to 9 o'clock, Monday through Friday, and then he gets Saturday to go. We love that, yeah, it's great, he's got a business going, but let's think about the neighbors and the neighborhood. We've put up with a lot over the years, and now he wants to go all these extra hours. I think it's our turn to have our way. Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else new for the Ray Roberts permit, I'll entertain a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
This is Greg Schnapp, 831 South Street.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, sorry we can't be there tonight, but we're on Zoom. We have our letter, and I don't know if the planning board has got that, but if you'd like us to read that letter to you.
We have, that's the one we have.
We do have it.
We do have it.
Great.
Okay, do you want to read that, or are you all set? Because there are building inspector that had verified complaints, and so that was the only thing, but as long as you have our letter, you've read that, then, and the materials and stuff, so we should be all set then.
Yes, we are. Thanks, Greg.
There was a letter, Kathy Schnapp here also, there was a letter from Don Chirico that also was submitted to the board years ago regarding the validity of complaints.
Yes, I saw that.
And folks have received that as well.
Yeah, he was the building inspector at the time, yes.
Yes, who was, okay.
Okay. All right,
Okay, thanks, Greg.
yeah, thank you.
So I do have one thing I'd
Okay.
like to clarify prior. So in your number 2 on the special permit conditions, you would like to utilize a small area of encroachment as shown on the 2025's permit plan may be used by the applicant for material storage. So that's within the buffer zone, correct, on that wall?
The wall was built, say, 5 feet short. So there's a small area where if you technically want to stay out of the buffer zone, you can't push material up against the wall. So,
So I do also have a decision here from the Board of Appeals from back in 2023 here, that just a small working in that buffer zone was ruled to not be just, right? They kind of said, subject of it being de minimis was discussed, and they said, you know, even using 4 to 5 feet in the 50-foot buffer zone does not feel that it is,
maybe Ray knows the answer to this. I saw that. I don't know if that was before the wall was built, that you're into the buffer zone and just push it back. Now we have the wall. And I.
That was after the wall was built.
And I suppose the fix to that is to put more blocks in front of the existing wall, which would pull the wall out, it's 5 feet, and then you can push up against that. I mean, I saw that decision, I wasn't aware of that decision.
Sure.
I think it's,
I just want to uphold all past decisions here that, you know, working in that buffer zone, even if a tire goes into that buffer zone, is not to be worked in or stored materials in.
yeah, and I will say that if we're establishing the firm position by this board that material stored in the buffer zone is a violation, you know, we may be hearing more about that in the future with regard to other properties, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Very good.
Okay,
All right,
anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing for the Ray Roberts special permit.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Don, okay. So we've closed the public portion of the public hearing. We will do deliberations at the end of the meeting, because we have some other things we need to get to tonight. So you're welcome to stay for that. So the next thing is to approve our, open the regular meeting and get a approval of the March 19th planning board minutes.
You can make a motion to accept planning board minutes on June 29th, 2023.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? You there, Don?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I said aye.
You want to move forward?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so Robert will abstain, and Don Davis and I and Jared will. I did. Okay. So that's the regular meeting minutes approved. And March 19th.
March 2nd. We have 23rd.
Huh? You have what? No, that's from 2023. Those are old minutes. That was from stuff from
So-
different things.
So I won't abstain, I will say I was here. So I just didn't- that was in my packets, that was in my packet.
Okay. All right. We approve the minutes. So, old business. Is Amy here?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. You're on Zoom. So Amy, if you have something new to add, feel free. If not, I'd like to move on because we have a lot of other things to get to.
Okay, well, so first, for those who don't know, my name is Amy Turnbull, and I've been working for the past year to bring movable ADUs to Dalton. which met with some resistance. So I've sort of switched gears a little bit to make the idea of alternative housing for those in need more palatable. And I'll be meeting with A.J. Adler from Wheelpad, which is a modular and RV manufacturer in Vermont. And they have a really interesting module that they sell. And so what I'm thinking about doing is meeting with either the Council of Aging and or putting together a Zoom meeting in the spirit of bringing in community to let people know more about what that might look like for Dalton, for people who want to age in place, people who have medical issues, and I would also like to expand it to people who might be having a tough time finding housing. For instance, if it was a parent and their children needed a place to live, that we could possibly consider, a temporary permit as well for those type of situations. So I would like to just put that out there as an update for the working group for ADUs, and then maybe report back next month with any information that I might have either from Dalton Council on Aging and or folks who I may talk to who might be interested.
Okay, thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Amy at this time? Okay, we'll go on to new business. Condominium conversion proposal. This is a letter from Antonio Pagliaro. I'm not sorry, I don't know how to say your last name.
Pretty close.
You're here?
I'm here.
Okay, do you want to read your letter?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Tony Pagliarulo. I reside at 617 Old Windsor Road. I would prefer that it be called rezoning, but my initial discussion with Yanko and the building inspector started off in terms of condominium conversions. I also want to preface what I'm about to say is that years ago, pre-COVID, I wrote a letter to the planning board regarding ADUs, accessory dwelling units. It was not in the lexicon at that time. I'm smiling because 2 years later, I wrote another letter and was asked to speak on the floor at our town meeting, and it squeaked by. And now, of course, ADUs are permitted by right. So I am familiar with housing. I've lived in Dalton since 1985. I've owned properties in Dalton. So I'm writing this letter in terms of our current scenario here and elsewhere in the Berkshires. Okay, this letter was written in February, and I postponed it because of all the activity going on. So I'm here tonight. I'm writing to you in regard to investigating changes to our community zoning bylaws, specifically amendments to the table of dimensional requirements and the table of use regulations. Projections indicate that Dalton will continue to lose population in the coming decades. Aside from Silver Maple Farm, completed some 20 years ago, no new significant housing stock has been developed in Dalton. Furthermore, open space upon which to build is practically nil. This lack of growth and depopulation will only deepen Dalton's reliance upon the property tax to meet budget expectations. In order to attract residents and ease the burden for Dalton's property owners, the tax base must be broadened. Communities have addressed this predicament by altering their zoning codes to ease and permit multifamily residences in previously designated single-family residential zones. This change has successfully broadened the tax base and provided relief for the property owner. Specific regulations addressing subdivision of property versus zoning ordinances changes may provide a viable route towards multi-dwelling residences. Eligible property owners would have the option of converting their one-family property to a multi-family property given renovation and or additional building unit. Consideration permitting residential property development in zones currently delineated as agricultural, business, and industrial use should also be considered. Condominium conversion, which is currently permitted via deed changes, will afford the property owner additional options. Land will be held in common with airspace accorded to each respective property owner. Zoning variances would address parking requirements, building setbacks, etc. A change in zoning regulations from single-family, agricultural, business, and industrial usage to multifamily zoning would provide additional tax revenue, allowing the town to better budget for the future while maintaining essential services. Residents who may otherwise leave Dalton due to unmanageable property taxes could elect to remain under the proposed proviso. A growth in our population would strengthen our pool of volunteer citizenry. The aforementioned zoning changes may be accomplished without credibly changing our town's character. I believe that Dalton taxpayers seeking property tax relief would be agreeable to changing single-family zones to multifamily zones. And I mentioned speaking to the group. That's a lot for me to say and to understand, but basically I'm asking the zoning commissioner, the zoning board here, to look at this as 2 bites of the apple. And the first bite is to look at our business, residential, and industrial properties, and they're significant. If those could be amended to multifamily housing, I think that would appreciate our tax base. I know it would appreciate our tax base and help us in the future. The second part is in terms of single-family residences. That's maybe a harder bite, but nonetheless a bigger bite. As I said earlier, ADUs now are permitted by right. The problem with an ADU is that the homeowner has to invest accordingly, and that can be difficult for some people. Renting that property or using it, renting it in particular, isn't going to afford a payback. However, an ADU is not a distinguished or a separate dwelling unit. So for instance, if I built an ADU on my property, which I considered years ago, when I sell my property, it's a single residence, not a dual residence. What I'm asking you to consider is take that ADU concept and say, well, now we have 2 residences on the same parcel. We'd increase the tax base. The homeowner would have to do a condominium conversion in terms of sharing and maintaining the open space, with maintenance and snow removal or what have you, and they would have their individual units taxed accordingly. I think it's a viable option for the future. I know people have said, well, what about our community's character? And I want to address that. I think it's a physical change to our community, but it's the people in the community that count. So here we would address seniors, and it's a way to bring in young people. Dalton's a desirable area. We don't have the staff. This is an option to pursue. And you did so years ago with ADUs, and I'd ask you to do so again. Thank you.
Tony, go ahead and share. Do you have any examples from other towns or cities that have tried this or have a plan that, like this board can at least review?
I don't offhand, but I know where I came from in southern Connecticut, and this was many years ago, in the southern Connecticut area, Stanford in particular, they opened it up. And what you see is a single-family house, and then there'd be units stretching back. They ease the setbacks. I think they're out there. I haven't researched it, no.
As you know, I mean, for us to take that on, I mean, that'd be a long drawn out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But if we don't have to reinvent the whole wheel,
yes,
and maybe just the tube inside,
yep,
that would help.
Yep, I gladly go and research
Goes well with.
And I'm just gonna, yeah.
We've been kind of working on this, but more or less in the smaller version with the going from the ADUs to maybe movable ADUs and other things. So we're really brainstorming and kind of on point with you. There have been discussion prior, thinly discussed with condominium conversion with certain things. So I thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you.
Dave, do 145, would there be a lot size restriction in this case? That if your lot was this size, you couldn't do it, but it was this size or bigger?
Those are all the things we're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah, there's a lot of regulations in the zoning bylaws that we ran into with ADUs, the setbacks and other things like that, which made a lot of properties not even able to consider an ADU, especially a separate one. Because the lots are just too small, especially in the center of town, Pine Street. Some of the other areas in town have bigger lots, some of them are large lots, you could put 2 or 3 houses. But anyway, that's the type of thing that we'd be looking at.
And I want to emphasize too, I know the notion is single to multi, but there is quite a bit of industrial and commercial space available. I know years ago, the Ashlot Park, the old Lloyd Jones, that was considered at one time to develop. That's 50 acres, really unseen. There's a roadway through it connecting Dalton to Pittsfield. I know the building's being used, but there's tremendous space around that. That could be a very valuable piece of property in terms of housing.
I think that Matt owns that. That space in between, I believe Matt owns.
There's a little gap, you go through a gate and you,
I think they own the woods back behind too.
there's 50 acres that goes with that slide.
It's-
Okay, total 50 acres.
So I know they recently spoke to the mayor about extending stuff in there. They had the mayor at their company.
Okay, nothing else. The next thing on the agenda was Berkshire Concrete Corp. Berkshire Concrete Company items. We have not gotten anything new. We are basically don't have anything to add beyond what you heard at the Board of Health meeting. We're waiting on a application with reclamation approval and other things. And we're also going to entertain a third-party review process. We're underway trying to evaluate different companies that would do a third-party review, since the planning board are really not experts in operations. So that's all I can say on that, unless someone has a specific question. Yes.
I don't have a question, I just want to speak.
Of course. Is this new to you guys? As long as you don't take too long, that's fine.
I'm in charge of props.
See my notebook?
Oh, God.
It's intelligence. Whether through complicity or ignorance, Dalton's bylaws have been flaunted. It is time for all the town's boards to protect the constituents. We have been shunted from one board to another, and now we are back where we started 3 months ago with the Board of Health. But it seems as if the buck should stop here with the planning board. You were the people who approved for 4 years a special permit for Berkshire Concrete for a sand mine not listed on the application, but designated on the site map provided by Berkshire Concrete. Right here. Very easy to see. On February 11th, the building inspector said a clerical error has occurred. All the plans submitted to the board that were approved show the new digging area. So he was aware, I assume if he was aware, you were aware of the new digging area when you discussed this in a hearing. According to 350-61 earth removal requirements, number 6, area of excavation shall be established by the planning board. That's you. So you established that, although you said you didn't know about it. So how could the planning board not know the gravel removal area on the site map as being the excavation site? On March 12th, the building inspector said there was no special permit for lot 105-16, and the quotation marks. Being there is no permit, there cannot be a special permit cited as a violation at this time. Building inspector said, I never inspected lot 105-16 because I never knew about it. He also said Berkshire Concrete owns that property and can do whatever they want with it. This board needs to get its act together and make decisions with the wellness of the residents of Dalton as their very first priority. If we didn't fight for our rights, who would? You? We have not caused a sand pollution problem. We just live with it every day and want it resolved correctly. Patrica has proven they can't be trusted. On July 28, 2022, the United Nations General Assembly passed a historic resolution declaring that everyone on the planet has a right to a healthy environment. We, residents of Dalton, Massachusetts, United States of America, North America, Western Hemisphere, planet Earth, are being denied that right. We have been denied that right for decades by Berkshire Concrete, AKA Patrica, as well as our own town, Dalton. Please help us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just want to briefly discuss.
You want to state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Keith Sanford. I'm a member of the Dalton Clean Air Coalition.
Okay.
And I live on Sunnyside Drive.
Okay, thank you.
I want to discuss the paperwork that is on the table over there, and I want to use the letter from the Department of Environmental Protection that was addressed that Agnes was Bukowski to do that. The first part of the letter discusses their sampling program, and it says, based on these measurements and other observations in the neighborhood, and I wanted, it is on the last sentence of the first paragraph of the second page of the letter to Agnes. The last sentence of the first paragraph. Based on these measurements and other observations in the neighborhood, and I want everybody to think about that statement for a second. It says, based on these measurements and other observations, which they do not mention. The observations they don't mention. All the neighbors here see sand blowing all the time. But the measurements are what I want to talk about. The measurements consisted of 3 days of sampling out of 365 days in a year, 2 one-hour samples out of a 24-hour day, and they concluded that based on that information, that this is not an air quality issue, but a nuisance dust concern from blowing sand. A letter was transmitted to the Dalton Board of Health saying the conclusion based on that unscientific, unrepresentative sampling of the problem area made the conclusions from the study completely unacceptable. And the Department of Environmental Protection should return to Dalton and do their job as they were mandated to do and protect the citizens of Dalton. I asked that the letter be forwarded to the Department of Environmental Protection, and that has been done. And there has been no reply yet. So this unacceptable study that reaches this unacceptable conclusion that it is not an air quality issue cannot be listened to at this point.
Thank you.
So I'd like to, I'm gonna, hold on a second. I'm gonna reply to that. I have an email from Sean Gonzalez from the Department of DEP. They were asked to come back and do more monitoring and studying.
That was probably me.
So I'm gonna read this, and if anybody would like to see it, I'll show you to at the end of the meeting. It says, "Hi Agnes, Mass DEP will not be taking additional actions on this matter. Any further action must be managed by the town." And Regards, DEP. So this is falling on, I believe, this board
Yeah.
to make the next formal decisions. And, we are right now, as of the last 2 days when we got this letter, Yanko has been working diligently to get out an RFP. They dumped this on us, and I have pushed and tried diligently to help Yanko to progress this, because enough's enough. And we all feel that this matter needs to be addressed immediately. And the only way we can do that, because we aren't qualified, as we've been told, and I think everybody in here will agree, we are not qualified to get you the answers that you need ourselves. So the only thing that we have left is to put an RFP out, and I have been assured by the financial people in the town that we get the RFP out, the money will be there to do these studies when we find an engineer and the company to take this on.
That's great.
Yes.
Glen Shaw, Pleasant Street. How long have you given folks, what's the time frame for getting this RFP back in, accepting it, and then getting some implementation?
I don't know what the base, Yanko, I don't want to speak for you, but help me, most RFPs get publicized, they get posted on like Combis and other state agency web pages. We can directly email them, and then there's a 20-day window.
I think so.
I think it's a 20-day window that the bids and the requests have to be back to us. We then analyze those, and we'll pick a firm.
So we're talking process.
It's the
Once
process.
you get this back, how long is it gonna take you to look at this and move us forward? Do we don't know?
I don't know how to answer that, but I would say that this board would get that information and we would analyze it and get it going, because we know the urgency of it. If we have to, I would even suggest if we had to call a special meeting to have that, I think we should be doing that, to have this information put down and we get somebody hired to get these answers for you as soon as possible. The state requires an RFP for the 20 days. So if on the 20th day it comes in and give us a day or two or whatever to get a meeting together, we'll make it happen. Is now that we have, it's in our court, I believe this board has, I don't believe this board is going to drag its feet. I don't think we ever have.
So we have a month,
Yep.
and then whoever gets the bid, whoever gets the quote, has got some time frame to get it scheduled, to get it put up. How long do you think it's gonna take?
I believe the RFP will go out, that it'll have to be, for people putting this in, we will request that they immediately start to be
Well, they're
immediately.
gonna have to schedule their folks, they're gonna have to do some logistics, don't you think?
Oh, I believe, but I mean, a week, 10 days, I mean, that would be, but these are questions we can't answer for you, but all I can say is we are on it.
So are you more concerned of the continual monitoring right now and testing, because
No,
you're
I'm more
not
concerned
satisfied?
about breathing this air.
Hang on. Let me ask my full question, please. Are you dissatisfied with the results, right? I can kind of get that as a consensus. Right?
Yeah, I think you.
We're all dissatisfied with the results, and you want to have further study and research into that, correct?
No, we want it solved.
So we do.
We thought the DEP thing was gonna help, it did nothing.
So that was the monitoring, okay? There is a mitigation plan that we have been presented with, and the scope of services with that we are going through. Now we just need to separate that, okay? Right?
Just give us a plan, a time frame that we can sort of march along with.
So there's two things here, right? There's the active mitigation plan of the company actually having to take steps and go through and mitigate the site, right? Physically putting straw bales, straw down, mats, all that kind of stuff, right? That needs to happen pretty quick, right? Now, right?
Yes.
So now, is that more of an urgency to you, or is it the monitoring?
We want them both.
Okay.
The mitigation thing is way behind. It should have been done a long time ago. It's not. This other thing, the testing the air, is something separate. Would you agree?
Yes.
Well, yes.
Absolutely.
We want a plan for that.
Yes.
And all, and trust me, all this, everything that he's writing right now, this is all in there. It's all in there.
We have another question back here.
Yeah, Tom Howard, Ribbon Drive. Are we still waiting for the results from that one and only lab in California that can test for silica?
It never got sent out because of the process being who was in charge. Never got sent. So this is all part of.
Still have the sample?
Just go back. The DEP has their cells. But Bianco?
I was gonna say is that, to your point, you've been very good help to myself and those of us working on this project behind the scenes. And I'm saying is behind the scenes, we're doing things that to have the dust mitigation plan comes in from Berkshire Concrete, who is definitely overdue on this. I hear you all on that, 100% agree. And when they provide that with us, which should be quite soon, then we want to be ready to pull the trigger on going forward with the process on that. And so that's what we're doing behind the scenes right now to get that process going for you.
Okay, Dave?
Yes, hi. Good evening again. Dave, U140 Ribbon Drive. Couple of things. Again, I understand that things do take time, and you're responding to the DEP, you're going to the next step. I would ask that this board meet more regularly, besides once a month, given this issue. Number of reasons. You're right, there's multiple prongs here, and when you ask the question, which one's more important, I think they're all equal. So I
apologize for trying to prioritize. I was just trying to.
No, I understand the question,
isolate.
but I think continual air monitoring when you're assessing plans.
Yeah.
Continual air monitoring for any contractor doing this kind of work in our community, including Ray Roberts. I think continual, in some instances, noise, right? But for us, the air monitoring. I want to speak to the mitigation plan for a second. Again, spring is upon us. Right, the tulips are coming up. There's a window in the Berkshires we have for planting and planting things so that things can thrive and survive the next winter. One of the concerns I have if we're not meeting more regularly is because you're going to get a plan. We're going to hear it. You're going to hear it. You're going to make recommendations. We're going to make recommendations. The plan is going to go back. They're going to revise the plan, hopefully. Plans come back, hopefully it's something we're all happy with. The last thing I want, and I've said this many times, I want the dust to stop, but I also don't want it to be clumsy. I don't want the situation to be worse. People have said they can get in there, but there's going to be dust flying around. No. I want the process done correctly. Board of Health has recommended to us that if we see dust blowing around, we take pictures, we send them the evidence. Different agencies in the town has offered to support that. When the time comes, there's dust blowing around there, people are willing to come out and take pictures and take evidence. So if there are to be fines ensued, which we are asking for, another prong to this. And again, it follows any contractor, right? If they're making noise, or they're creating dust and the monitors are picking it up, it's factual, it's there. It's this fine for this one, it's this one for this one, it's this one for this one. I think that's stuff that you guys gotta lay out within your approvals. So I really worry, and again, I appreciate the process takes time. In the meantime, our health is being affected. Today, I was happy that it rained the last week. The winds today, if it had been dry for last week, we all would have known what have happened today with the wind. So sooner than later. So I would ask more timeliness of these meetings. Maybe it's going to be every 2 weeks until we get to June, because we hit that June, July window when it gets really hot and dry. It's going to be really hard to plant anything. One added piece, when you're looking at the mitigation plan, I would ask for, and they have the water resource, it's been a very wet winter, spring, is continual spraying of water on their working areas so that wherever they're working, because they're going to be moving a lot of earth, that the ground remains moist and wet to mitigate the dust. So time, continual air monitoring, and just continue to listen and act. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. The gentleman in the back here.
Mike Van Dusen, 128 L Street Extension. My wife is on the line as well, so I think she would like to speak to it. So what I wanted to cover with you guys tonight is with regards to what's in place now for cease and desist with Patrica. From what I understood of it in emails that we received back and forth from various town officials and the building inspector, is that Patrica will not do anything on that site currently. Is that correct, to your understanding?
That is our understanding, yes.
They're still processing.
They're still processing, right.
Shipping material.
But they are not doing any active mining on that site.
Correct.
Does that cease and desist prevent them from doing the abatement that they're supposed to do via the permit, as it was? And
That's been made clear, I believe, right?
The one thing they can do on that property is abatements. It's the only.
So, and mitigation's fine.
Yep.
That's a different topic than abatement. And I think that's what and we need to be clear on the terminology here, okay? Because what we're experiencing right now requires the abatement. And from what I'm seeing from across the board here is the abatement points back to Patrica. So as far as communications along those lines, what's been done for that?
All communications are going through their counsel at this point, so we have been legal counseled, essentially.
Okay, so they're dragging their feet on that due to issues and all that, but, okay. Well, that's kind of where, okay, so you guys, the authority for this has now fallen back to you guys now. So where does that put us there on your side? Either can't speak to it, can't just.
So the one issue, Yanko, tell me if I'm wrong, and one issue is we don't have a special permit on that property with any guidelines. So the violation that they had, we had nothing in paper restricting them with anything set forth on that law.
Right.
So that's where the complication has come in, and now the attorneys are involved, but they have been told to fix the abatement and the mitigation immediately to stop the dust.
Well, I mean, is it crazy to say that you guys could just make an addendum to whatever permits they had before and say you're doing this within this box of abatement and that's it?
I don't think it's that easy.
I don't think we can do that for a current special permit for the lots that they have, and for the one on 516, since there isn't even a special permit on that lot, we can't do anything for that one either.
So they're kind of falling into a gray area outside of what you guys are.
I think what we need to do is, talk to our town attorney and find out what we can do to try to force them to do some mitigation to keep the dust from that site and continue to flow. Because right now, like Dave said, it's been wet. I think a week after our last meeting, a month ago, I was at the transfer station. Is anybody here from Berkshire Concrete?
I used to, if I have to, I will go up there myself. I know these people.
When I was sitting there at the transfer station, it kind of overlooks their driveway in and out. And the big truck just comes hauling ass out of there, dust flying everywhere.
Look, let's be realistic.
So it's like they're not even taking care of business at their existing site.
Agreed. I'm not, that's a different thing. And there's other things that we can speak to as a whole. But I think we need to keep this specific to what our issue is,
right,
which is the current abatement.
So I think the thing to do is for us, the planning board, we'll talk to the town attorney and see what we can do to draft something to send to their lawyer to have them start mitigating the dust from that site. Yes, Lisa.
Lisa Pugh, Authority Ranger Drive. To speak to that, and like you were saying, since there is no permit, we're saying there's no violations, but that can't be how they just get away with not having culpability, because we have town bylaws. So no permit or no permit, if they want to play that game, fine, but we have bylaws that state the dust and things like that. I did not bring them with me to have them in front of me, but they're violating the bylaws.
Right.
So there has to be something the town can do. They cannot say, thank you. They cannot say that. There's nothing we can do, there's no permit, so I guess you're allowed to.
It's an illegal sand mine.
Right,
It's illegal.
so the bylaws are what we need to be going after, and we have written 1 million letters. We need action. We don't need letters, we need action. They're already violating, like you said, when you were at the transfer station the other day, you saw them. Well, that lot does have a permit. That lot does have all of those same conditions, so go after them. Go after Patricia. They are violating their conditions that they signed off on every single day. You've seen it, I see it. They go flying by Greenville. They are not covered, those trucks are not covered. Or what does cover them is bouncing up and the dust is flying. Right by Greenville, right by the kids playing on the playground. Yes, they go slowly, they don't speed by. But they still are not covered. There are some that go by uncovered. And you can see the pile of the dirt. We have violations that we can go after now. The town just needs to decide to do it. We need to stop playing this back and forth kind of cat and mouse game. We have bylaws. They're violating them. They're violating conditions on lots that they do have permits for. So let's go. I don't know what the way it is. We've been after this since mid-January, February. Here we are in mid-April and still nothing has happened. He's very comfortable. Nothing's happening. He's not had to do anything. He has his lawyers making excuses of why he doesn't have to be responsible. He has proven over and over again, he is not a good corporate citizen. He has disregarded this town for generations. We do not need to put up with this, but we need to stand up and start having some teeth. And we need to push back. Because as a group, as a town, I'm sure as a board, you've had enough. Please stop writing letters. Please take action. Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, I want to add to that, to the current permits. Someone put a drone up recently, and even from the Google Maps, mitigation procedures on the different lots that they got permits for, it appears that nothing's ever done. They will slope a site with no replanting, they just leave it. They leave it for nature to take over. So as Lisa said, they have current permits and current spaces that I don't feel like they're fulfilling their parts of the permit. The second thing I wanted to refer to Ron's map, because I noticed this the other day, and I don't know what this map pertains to as far as timing, but
It's at the top, at the top.
was the year 2000, well, it was printed.
That was submitted with the application on
Okay.
September.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this is very relevant because they show whether people saw it or not. They saw the area for removal, okay? And I've got a pretty good sense of space. This is the end of Prospect Street right here. I've walked that, and this house right there, when you stand on the edge of the lot, the edge of what was deforested, is approximately, I would guess, about 70 feet from the corner of the house. One of the rules within our bylaws states that when you're doing this kind of work, you can't come within 150 feet of a person's dwelling. They're well within that. But also what I want to point out is this blank space that's what the hole is. The space that about 10 acres that they removed material very aggressively and without any kind of procedures in place to mitigate and stop dust. This blank space, they basically followed this line as close as they could. You could go down there and see the property line markers. It's right on the edge. They came all the way up and they turned, and right there, you can stand there. This blank space is currently mined, it's been exposed. It's not just this down here near the water, the lower part. This blank space is very important for everybody in this room to understand that this space is not even shown as a space that they're going to mine, is what they mine. Regardless of all the other errors that were made, they're in this area here that they didn't propose. Thank you.
Ron,
I know you're afraid to do
Ron,
this.
and then,
There's
Richard's
someone on
on
Zoom, by the way.
Oh,
She's been waiting.
I'm sorry.
I just, I've been involved in the town, been here for a long time, and have run into situations where the town does not have the resources. You guys are about, I don't know how much money you need.
Zero.
But whatever it is, you ain't getting enough, okay? I don't even know how much he makes. Not enough. He doesn't get enough, but he makes a lot more than you guys. This situation needs a constant, immediate attention. It needs, and the same thing happened years ago with road work, and nobody knew what to do. And I said, get a grant. You need to set up a subcommittee that consists of interested parties, people who are not looking to argue about it, people who are looking to get it done, which would be him, basically, Agnes, maybe a member of your board if it needs to be, or other boards. But you got to have some people technically astute enough to understand what needs to be done. You can't just sit here and you get crowed at every single time you guys sit down. Do you like it? I don't think so. We want to get it done. I know people in this room who are smart, who could work on a subcommittee to get this thing done quickly. But would the town allow you to do that? Okay, that's actually a question, but I don't expect an answer. But you've got to get something moving. We've been doing this for 4 months now, and we see the same thing every single day. Get a subcommittee. Get an agreement for a subcommittee. Get people in the community involved who are smart enough. Got some smart people out there that know this stuff. Get somebody from the town who has some authority and responsibility. Right over there, okay? And maybe others that could be pulled in periodically to answer questions. We could put together, I would suspect, a proposal for services pretty quickly. And get it out, if it's not on the street already, because I know they're talking to at least 3 different firms, right?
Thereabouts.
Right.
I don't want to go too deep into it, but.
Right, but there's at least 3 firms highly qualified to do exactly what we're talking about. Why don't we just make a decision? And it's not qualification-based, or fee-based, is it? It's qualification-based.
I think so.
Okay.
I like to think so, yes.
Because I said to her when she started talking about, it should be qualification-based, not fee-based, because you don't want somebody to come in and blow way underneath the number just to get in there for obvious reasons. Qualification-based. And get somebody in here to get it done. We just keep talking about this and get frustrated. And I mean, there's people that haven't said anything for months in this meeting, and they stood up today. God bless you if all of a sudden everybody stands here at one meeting and everybody raises their hand and wants to talk about it. It's going to get to that because the frustration level is at a point now where we don't want to deal with it anymore. Get it done. Get a subcommittee. Put together an RFP. Identify and pre-qualify people that are going to submit to it. And make a decision and get the work done. It's not that tough, guys. And it's not, you guys are board members. And I love you dearly. Well, not really. But I wouldn't have any one of you on a subcommittee to make a selection on an engineering firm to do this work. I trust him, right? And I would trust others in this room who I know. Tommy Powers, would you do that, Tommy? As a subcommittee member, right? And get it done. Days, not months, we can get this thing done. So if you like this experience, if you like to go through this every single month or whenever you meet, just keep right on going, because this group ain't going to give up. Are we going to give up?
No! Hell no.
One more, back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, there was someone on Zoom that's been waiting. Go ahead, I'm not sure who it is.
Hi, April Van Dusen, 128 Hale Street Extension. I'm about 1,000 feet away from the mine. First, I'd like to say something to everybody in the room. And I hope that there are still Green Ridge people, neighborhood in the room. And I would just like to point out to everybody the stark contrast between these two cases. We are all experiencing a similar kind of issue between business operations effects on our neighborhood. And I feel like the Green Ridge neighborhood is able to get things done, and our neighborhood is being pushed back and being told that there's nothing that can be done. And it's just mind-blowing to me that in the same town, we can have an issue like this where, and in the same meeting, one business is being told no, and the other business is literally flouting their disregard to the residents of this town and people who are on the border. And secondly, I don't want to hear the building inspector saying that there's nothing he can do about a mine on a residential property. I don't want to hear him say that because it's not true. He can certainly go around and harass people about getting permits for their properties for stupid little things. And Berkshire Concrete has a mine on their residential property, and he says that there is nothing that can be done. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And I think that because Patrica has so much money and lawyers and everything, that they're able to get away with things that the business who is sitting in front of you right now can't get away with. He's here at every meeting, and Patrica is not.
Okay.
And they continue every single day to break the rules and disregard the bylaws. And we're being told that there's nothing that can be done about it. Nothing can be done. We're all having sand blown all over our yards and our decks and our children when they're trying to play outside right now, that everything is exposed after the snow melt. And it's, oh, we can't do anything. They can do whatever they want on their property. It's a residential property and they have a mine. I couldn't even put a shed on my property without Brian banging on my door. So I don't want to hear Brian saying that they can do what they want. Just because they have a buttload of money and lawyers. It's completely disrespectful to the entire town that they are flouting it. In our faces, in your faces. And I just want to point that out. I want to point out the difference between these two issues tonight. Between the Hubbard Ave neighborhood and the Green Ridge neighborhood and the Pleasant Street and Florence Street and the Circle neighborhood up the street from me. There is a huge difference in what can be done and the actions between these two businesses. And I refuse to be told that there's nothing that can be done. I refuse to hear it anymore because it's not true. Because clearly right in front of our faces, every single one of these meetings, we're watching something be done for a different neighborhood. And I hope that they're here and they're watching. I hope everybody sees that difference that I'm certainly seeing every single meeting. So I just wanted to say that. And thank you.
So, before before we get off that topic, because I think it's a good point. As far as, you know, for lack of a permit, when something goes on in a zoned property, that is where the building inspector or the enforcement officer is supposed to step in and enforce those, you know, requirements and bylaws. Is that not true? So what is going on in this case? And I understand that there's behind the scenes legal problems, and that's fine if that's what it is. But there seems to be a place where an enforcement officer should be doing those type of things, and that seems to not be happening. And I'm just curious as to why that is.
So Brian did tell them to stop operations there.
Agreed.
And Agnes ordered them to immediately implement measures to abate the nuisance conditions preventing dust and sand from leaving the property. But as everybody in here knows, they haven't done anything.
Understand. So,
yeah.
Again, that's.
I think we need to contact their lawyer and find out why they aren't doing anything. But-
Well, I think they've already answered that. They said that they're not doing anything because they don't have a permit. That's their response.
Well,
So
no,
that's where we're at. Because we keep
I
going
mean,
back
we
to the
have,
same place.
we have preliminary plans for a mitigation system.
Understood.
We
I'm
have
not-
preliminary
again, I'm not talking about
correspondence.
Mitigation though, sir.
Right, we have preliminary correspondence with someone who will help peer review, potentially with this RFP, if we can afford it. We can have other people peer review future permits and make sure we have conditions in there that will make these measures. However, we can't make a move on that ourselves until those things are moved forward.
Right.
So we are waiting on this process to be abated by them.
See, that's the thing though. That is not the same thing that we're talking about here. And I hear you when you say that as far as.
We've done what we could do.
No.
We did this.
Enforcement officer who's supposed to have. That's where you're lost. And I'm not disagreeing with you saying, and I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong. Don't.
I'm just trying to take it step by step, and that's what we
Understood. I
can
agree.
do.
But like.
I'll voluntarily let you sit in my seat and do it in place.
It's just, I'm not understanding like where the gap is there between this and next permit, which I get, and I'm totally for that.
We can't, until they put it in front of us, we can then do any,
Right now, this is falling on, Department of Health. This is an Agnes's Board of Health issue, because they can be the ones that write the citations and tickets. We have no authority here as this board to write a ticket.
Right.
So right now, because the DEP has put this back onto the town and called it a nuisance problem, that then falls back onto Department of Health, Board of Health, for Agnes to give it tickets. Do you have any idea where any of that is at? Because I know there was discussion about how that all comes through now.
I was thinking she's away for these next 2 days. I'm going to ask her today to see where it's going. But I know that at the last Board of Health meeting, we wrote a letter, which I CC'd on, I'm sure, on.
You guys saw the letter that got written?
From Agnes. Well, she imposed the deadline for April 25th for the dust mitigation plan to come in to avoid future fines and report action. So that's just saying right there.
Can I interrupt? She said abate, not mitigate. Abate. There's a difference. Stop the dust is abating. Mitigating is something totally different.
Yeah. So the problem is that she's already given the order for the abatement for the immediate and the mitigate, and they're dragging out the mitigation. So she's giving them a written notice that if it's not in our hands by the 25th, I believe is how it's written, that they can then go back to the Board of Health and they can then start giving fines. And I don't know what I do not know what the fine amounts are. They're pitiful. Okay. That's more than I know. So I do, but this is the process. I do believe this has come full circle.
Yeah.
And I believe now that this board knows we own this, and Yanko knows that he's in charge of the process. I believe and assure you that this will get done. And we'll do it as fast as we can. And if we get the RFP out and we get a deadline, I have no problem coming in on a second meeting of the month, or if a third one has to be done. I want this done for you as soon as possible. I'm embarrassed as a representative of the town, as your selectman. I am embarrassed that this has taken so long, and it shouldn't have. This should have been an immediate response by the town, but it got muddied up going from, it's not our problem, it's, oh, you guys need to go to the, and you guys have been to every stop that you possibly can, and I think 2 or 3 times. And hey, I'm sorry that it's taken this long for us to get the answers we need. And it's embarrassing.
And just to round this out, for, and maybe this comes up as new business for this board, for the town manager. Because that position is being, the current town manager is being phased out virtually, correct?
He's retiring.
Is that a position that is up for election, or is that something that you guys have approved? He's appointed.
He's appointed, he's hired.
Where do we stand with that?
There's an RFP out for that.
Okay. Okay. Just curious.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Sorry.
It's okay. Pete Person, 30 Florence Street, Dalton. Let me apologize. I get a little frustrated. This is our third time around here. And I will say, and I'm not taking anybody's sides, but I heard a town official say, Perry's very concerned about what's going on. To which I say, bullshit. Because Perry's never set foot in here. He sent 2 low-level individuals over here to come out and say, yep, this is what we're worried about this. No, Perry's concerned that he's not going to get the sand he needs to make concrete, that he's going to have to import it from somewhere. And I want to see Unistress do well. I really do. I mean, I want to see them do well because they employ local people, but not at the expense of people's health. And the feeble attempt at air quality in our here 3 different days just isn't cutting it. You have at least 2 engineers that I know of that are in our group, okay? And they just shake their heads, at what's going on. Now, I have some copies of the zoning bylaws, and one of the things that you said, active mitigation plan, okay? It should be called inactive mitigation plan because they're supposed to have a mitigation plan before the shovel goes in the ground.
That's right.
Right.
And, we're formulating one now. What do you mean you're formulating it now? Okay, so right away, they started off on the wrong foot. Okay, but earth removal, according to 350.61, okay, and I'm just going to cut to the chase here. To control noise, air, or water pollution, blah, blah, blah. Protect neighborhood residential properties from adverse effects. Okay? None of that's being done. None of it. Okay? We didn't even know about it. Okay? Any application shall be accompanied by a plan prepared. Okay? The plan shall contain names and addresses of all abutters, including those across any street or way. That couldn't happen because they didn't put the lockdown. So they're in violation there. Okay? Access routes. If they had listed an access route, they would have known where they were digging because there's one road that goes just to the south of the pond. It's pretty easy to figure out where you're going to be mining if you say that's your access route. So that wasn't on there. Okay? A cost of review by the town's consulting engineer shall be borne by the applicant. Okay? I'm not exactly sure what all that involves, but did they submit anything? Area of excavation shall be established by the planning board. We know that didn't happen. Okay? And I'm not blaming you guys. I'm not,
I knew they were working there, and I knew I had gone through and walked it and made sure that it was safe for people because the hiking trails lead right to it. I just didn't realize personally that it was omitted from being written as opposed to being on it. And I had not known that the abutters, you guys, were not notified.
okay.
But I knew they were working there, so I 100%.
See the degree that I showed on the map?
What's that?
The map that I showed earlier.
I knew they were there because I had.
But you have to know that it's 10 acres beyond that towards our neighborhood. Okay, that's what they did.
Yeah, no, I saw the devastation back there, and I was disturbed by it because I used to grow up hiking there. That was my favorite place in my whole life.
So you knew of it, but the scale of it was not communicated.
Right, and I looked at the map and we, had the permit, and it was basically, what, to my understanding, was just renewing what had already been going on. I was, so anyway, yes, it was an oversight, right, and I'll admit it. And it's really unfortunate that it's gone to this, because it was, I didn't know that it was affecting you guys with the air quality, but I was personally, I was taking up my own concerns to try to make sure people were safe going in and out of there, because that was an immediate observation I made going on my site visit.
But again, not to interrupt Ron, if you're standing there, and I'm with you, and I'm looking at that map, I'm thinking they're putting it close to the lake, there's forest there. I'm thinking that's far from the neighborhood. Oh, fine. But then
They started making their way up to the top corner there, and that's where the terrain is quite dangerous too, that they made it. It's very steep, and there's kids that go in there constantly, right? We all know that. People are.
It's still do.
Oh, I know, and that's why Don Davis and I, when we took our walk through there, we told them, you gotta put up signs and tell people not to go in there anymore, because they pretty much ruined the place, And of course, it's their property, but I understood that, and I had to accept that. I was like, they were ruining my favorite place I ever enjoyed my whole life. It was paradise to me. So I'm with you guys on that, and I really hope that we can get this resolved. So, and I really hope maybe they can build a relationship with you guys again, and maybe even reclaim some of that and let people re-recreate in there, because I know many of you that are upset probably also used to enjoy going in there for evening walks with your dog or what have you, because they didn't go through getting people on trespassing, but everyone generally likes to go and enjoy that place as well. So
you were able to reclaim where they cleared out and put all the solar panels.
what's that again?
Weren't they able to reclaim all the area where the solar panels are? Is that
I mean, it's all fenced off. You can't really hike through there anymore because of the fences, so.
Is that their property though?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was important when you said reclaim the relationship, because we feel there is no relationship.
Right.
Throughout all of this, there's been no contact from Patrica.
Yeah, I think there should be.
Offer any type of solution, any apology. There's just been complete silence and hiding behind lawyers.
Yeah, I mean, in my
It's
notes.
gonna take a lot to repair a relationship that really was not there, because there is no trust in, like you said, that they're feeling bad. Then they must have been feeling bad for the last 70 years, a long time to feel bad. I don't know, we haven't seen any action that stands behind those words.
So I want to put this, sorry again, just 1 second. I personally, if they do present a new permit, would require, in my suggestion, that the site would be regularly inspected, like on a monthly basis, if not more. And I have a whole list of suggestions that I personally would suggest when it comes to that, but I obviously don't have the time to be making those suggestions tonight or whatever, but just know that I personally have that loaded, ready to go. I have suggestions, I have information that I'd like to share with them regarding their mitigation plan, regarding the abatement process, but so just know that.
So in zoning zoning bylaw 350-61D7, provisions as deemed necessary by the Conservation Commission shall be made for safe drainage of water, prevention of wind and water erosion carrying material onto adjoining properties. Again, couldn't be done because they didn't put it on the permit, what lot they were on. Okay? Now, what I want to ask is, what was done to ensure that boundaries of the abutters was not encroached upon? Because that's Brian Duvall's responsibility, correct? Zoning Board of Appeal, or zoning enforcement officer?
I would assume he would have to see where the boundary line, that they should be easily identifiable and accessible and to see.
Okay, so, and following up on that, excavation is very close to Upper Prospect Street home, okay? Did zoning compliance officer not notice this? Or did zoning compliance officer not know who the abutter should be? Because not one of us was notified. I don't know who was notified, but it wasn't any of us.
We know that.
You see a problem here?
We definitely, that's been addressed.
Correct. Correct. Okay? But it sort of leaves, and this is where, you know, when people are telling me, oh, I talked to Perry and I did this and I did that, I'm kind of outraged because it kind of smacks of cronyism. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be done.
We're trying our best to move forward.
I'm not talking about you right now. Don't worry about that. Okay? But there's people that are, oh, well, he's not concerned because he's stonewalling the actual permit that says stop the sand from blowing. He hasn't done a damn thing there. Water it, do something. No, not going to do anything. And that's what whoever said, I think it was April said, he's just laughing at us. You know? And to go to request for proposals, you say if we can afford it, this town can't afford not to do it. I don't care what it costs, the town can't afford not to do that.
100% agree.
Because it's going to come back and bite this town hard if they don't. I grew up in this town. I lived in Covington for about 20 years, okay? But I'm starting to get real angry with the town, okay? Because of all the go to this board, go to that board, go here, go there, go everywhere. And I'm not personally mad at you guys, okay? But I am mad.
You have the right to be.
You just happen to be sitting there, that's all.
Here, here.
Okay. So, prior to renewal, inspection of premises shall be made by the zoning enforcement officer to determine that the conditions of the permit and the bylaw are being complied with. Again, I don't know what the zoning compliance officer position gets paid, but he's not doing his job, at least not on this case. Okay? I don't know what the open area is for mining, but looking at a map of Dalton and using the scale, and I don't know if this is the scale is perfect, right? There are over 1,333,000 square feet of bare soil in that pit. 1,333,000. Somewhere between 20 and 30 acres. What mediation? What reclamation? There's been none. And we're still talking and saying, oh, we got to give due process. We got to, you know, I get it. They got bigger lawyers than Dalton has. Okay? But enough is enough. And they have a whole whopping $25,000 bond posted on that. He probably blows his nose with $25,000. You know? I mean, come on. The town has been asleep at the wheel with this. And just, oh, let them go, let them go. Well, now you got 80 or so angry homeowners, okay, that all pay taxes. Add up what we're paying taxes, add up what they're paying for taxes. You know? Dalton's supposed to be a nice place to live. I always thought so. okay? But it's not, we're not getting the support we need. We're not. And I don't like to become disagreeable, and I don't like to get loud, and I don't, but, you know, enough is enough. Everybody's got to get together, all these boards, and I don't care if they have to make it so that, you know, like Ron said, so that there's people getting paid to do all this stuff. It needs to get done. And this is at least the third time we've been around with you guys. You know, it's mind-boggling. Now, Patrica paid a $375 permit fee to be used for processing the application and a notifying the butters. I think the town should probably send that back to them because guess what? The right of butters weren't notified.
Okay, in the back? Yeah, sure.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm not gonna make it long, okay? My name is Eli Hasnoon, 170 Raven Drive, okay? I hear a lot about technicality and permits and everything, but let's face it, I mean, it's easy, I think, for the town of Dalton. Even if he has a permit, you guys tell me if I'm wrong. Nobody has a right to send sand to your yard and your pool when your grandkids play. Even if you have a permit, I don't have business. Can I send oil to the neighbors and everybody, smoke and everything else? You can't. I don't know what Patrica, I have one leg to stand on. And I heard something that's got a lot of lawyers. Well, let me tell you something. There's thousands of us here so far, signed papers. We could have a class action lawsuit against him. Maybe that'd be his president, if he thinks he's got lawyers. He does not have a right to send sand to all our butters. You tell me if I'm wrong. Just that alone, we don't need all the technicality, I think.
Just simple. It's his sand's leaving his property and
All
going
of
on
us, what, we
yours.
gonna sell our houses? We got grandkids that play in the yard. I got a nephew, he was here last time, he spoke, and when his kids come out, they can't play because sand hits them in the face. So we don't need any more than that. That's a problem itself, we could stop with no problem. He doesn't have a right to do that. Even if that's permit, it must be gone. Thank you for listening, that's all I want to say.
Thanks. I think Richard was next.
Hi, Richard Hull, 164 Greenridge Drive. To someone's comment, I live on Greenridge Drive and I'm here trying to help the people on the other side of town. So a couple of things. I did send a letter to Agnes and I did send it to yourselves.
Yes, if you'd like to read it, you can.
I don't actually have a copy of it here, so I don't know. You want? Okay. If you think it's
We did get
appropriate.
it,
Yeah. Comments on Berkshire Concrete preliminary concept mitigation plan submitted to the Dalton Planning Board and received by the town clerk on March 13th at 11:22. Title: Berkshire Concrete off Bridle Road, Dalton, Massachusetts. Richard Hall comments: while this tells us the approximate area, it does not state the book and page and map and lot number this is referring to. Can this be added? This plan, as I understand, was to immediately control the dust, which is in capitals, entering the abutting neighbourhood, now and in advance of the currently suspended revoked special permit 2 R24. That's not a true statement because the special permit for the other lots is still in place. Just the lawyer has said that they're not going to excavate. I'll get back to that in a minute. Violation of conditions of the special permit that was put in place to prevent dust from being carried beyond Berkshire Concrete Corporation's property lines. While there's currently a cease and desist order currently in place that no work should take place on this site, preventing a nuisance to the abutting neighbourhood, but still letting dust again in capitals into the neighbourhood. In the meantime, all open and bare soil in this new area should be immediately covered and a time frame put in place for this to happen. And for this to be done from the area site nearest to the butters or working down to the bottom of the area furthest away from the butters, as per section 123 of their own construction phase measures for control of sediment and erosion and protection of wetlands on sheet C0. But remove the wording in section 2, which will be bare for more than 2 months and less than 12 months. And from section 3, removing ongoing construction process, as this would stop further violations of the conditions 4 and 5 by stopping the wind picking up the dust, again in capitals, and depositing it in the neighbourhood, which seems quite reasonable. Due to the complexity of the mitigation and new permitting for the town to retain a consultant expert in this field to review the plan and review the newly amended, not renewed Berkshire Concrete Corporation Special Permit number 2R at the site owner applicant's expense, which I believe is in the zoning laws, so we can have them pay for it. Then, as from the report from advanced testing dated February 13th that was submitted at the same time, while this report did not test for dust, again in capitals, on page 11 it does state that 59.6% of the sample is quartzite, which is known to create restful crystalline silicas from quartz. So basically what they're saying is 60% is made up of a material that's been proven to create silicon dust. There's a new regulation, 30 CFR Part 60, respirable crystalline silica, which will apply to workers at Berkshire Concrete Mine. Their ID number is 19047, on April the 8th, 2026, but not the surrounding neighbourhoods. That is, as you can see, violations of the conditions stated in the permit under July 3rd, 2013 Special Permit Conditions 4 and 5, which was put in place to prevent dust from being carried beyond the neighbourhood corporation's property lines. Sampling under the new standards for the mine come back positive, it would then go from a nuisance to being a public health issue. Either way, you should require Berkshire Concrete to cover the open area immediately and put in place a plan and timing for this action to make sure this done in utmost haste to protect the residents of Dalton. Respectfully concerned resident, Richard Hall. So that was my letter to the planning board and also the Board of Health.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome. So a couple of other things. On hiring a consultant, when the DEP did their instruments, their instruments aren't calibrated to pick up the dust that we're talking about here. There's only 2 companies in the world that makes the instrument that can actually look at the dust on a continual basis, because it's actually been designed for the mines, because coal mines and sand mines will have to, well, the coal mines already have to meet this regulation, the sand mines have to meet it next April. So I will chat with Bianca so that he has that information. Okay. A part of their permitting process, I'm going to try and keep this short, they put on their chart, remove, for that area, Moveable 2022. It was on that. There wasn't a detailed plan submitted to the planning board as per the special permit. So this is quite important. They, for their wetlands notice of intent, they submitted one to the DEP on 4/13/2023, and it was filed for map 217 and 106, lot 3 and lot 551 of 41 High Street, and the DEP gave it a number of 140-0194. On 4/23, DEP, in writing, and I have got this, asked for them to put the registry book and page number as it was off Pleasant Street and not High Street. So the DEP told them, what the hell, you're actually submitting a plan that's not actually in the right place. Foresight, which is their surveyors, put in their narrative on 7/11/2023 for Bridle Road, map 105, lot 1216. So, and then in the WPA, this is all for the wetlands piece. On 7/31/23, it was map 105/16. So when someone stood in front of the Board of Health a couple of months ago and said it was a clerical error, that's puzzling, because first of all, they decided to knock down trees and take out product before they even did a notice of intent for wetlands. So they basically said, not worried about it, we're going to do that. Okay, so I'm moving on from there. So I actually got hold of the lawyer's letter, and two things that I noticed was mitigation plan is a plan of land depicting the subject parcels, including in mitigation areas, which we expect to be completed early next week, the week of the 31st of March. Okay, so again, like everyone said, where is it? Then I was a little surprised at the last part, because part of the special permit says you can only mine 5 acres at a time. And what he says here is BCC has the right under the current special permit to excavate, process and reclaim on the adjacent lots of map 217 and 106, 3 and 55, collectively Dalton Pit. So what he's actually saying is, yeah, we've got 5 acres over here that we're illegally mining anyway, but we've also got 5 acre mining on the current piece of property that's under the special permit. So, as everyone has been saying, it seems that they're in violation of their special permit, and I'm interested to hear what the planning board can do about that, because he doesn't seem, Trika doesn't seem to care. So if we shut down their processing operation until they come in compliance with a number of violations of the special permit, maybe, hopefully he's watching this, they're watching this, they will take notice. Absolutely, we have to deal with sand going into the neighbourhood, but I also think the place to go with the teeth is to look at the special permit. As their lawyers going, well, we're actually mining elsewhere, so you can only mine 5 acres across the whole thing. That's my remarks for tonight. Thank you, Jim. And it only says 2022 removal. So I can see with the small maps that sometimes you get, you could miss that because they're required to give you a detailed chart of exactly where they're going to mine. That wasn't done for that location. The other location that they're saying is being reclaimed. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate everybody's patience and comments tonight. We'll be working on this, is all I can say at this point. Beyond that, I don't really have any other comments.
All I can say is that, again, I'll be doing my utmost to be getting this done as fast as possible, and thank you, David, for showing where they didn't put it, where they're digging, so that just goes to further show kind of some egregious, frankly, it seems a little, it's hard to believe that it was just a mistake anymore at this point from ECC's end, and it's important to remember that they have been doing this for quite some time with the permits, and now you're pointing out that on their map for the 2022, they actually dug where they didn't even, they just have a blank spot there. And so that's just another layer to this problem, which I'm now being made aware of, which makes sense given how the parcel looks to be compared on maps. So all I can say is that I also have to follow this process, and if I do not follow the process, that's where I will get buried in lawyers, and this will go nowhere. So while I understand frustrations here and all that, and I'm with you on that, I would be furious if that was my property, furious. But if I step out of line in the terms of getting this process done, in terms of getting the IRP, that's it for me. So I need to make sure that things are done by the book to the letter so that we aren't coming back around in 2 months or so. It's like, oh, big technicality here, technicality there. We do not want that. We want things to be in lockstep, 100% and ready to go when they're ready to go. Otherwise, this will all been for nothing. And I don't think that's an acceptable outcome for anybody in this room.
Thank you.
Mr. McCann, I'm just gonna give the Board of Health as asking for a plan for the 25th, which is next Friday, I think.
Yeah.
Would it be a reasonable request that this board be able to, hopefully by then you get a mitigation plan to review, that we can review and make public comment on far sooner than a month from now? That maybe
Well,
this board.
I can make a motion that we have a planning board meeting 2 weeks from tonight.
That'd be great.
Which would be the 30th, I believe.
That'd be great.
Yes, that's the 30th.
I need to check some schedules.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have 2 weeks notice before we have a meeting. So that's the earliest we can schedule one.
Perhaps we, maybe we get back to the scheduling.
Do you want a motion to
Yes.
get the next,
Yeah.
as soon as the point, or as soon as the meeting we can have?
As soon as
in the
meeting.
two-week period?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that this committee convene in no less than 2 weeks, no greater than 3 weeks, to go over this matter, or we're supposed to have the mitigation plans for review.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
John's aye. Okay.
You check with legal counsel on what we can do with that.
And there was somebody else that wanted to say something? Yeah, Pete.
I just want to apologize. I get a little too heated sometimes. I
No
don't
need.
mean to be anything, all right?
I have some legal advisory on managing the subject contact public hearing. I didn't have to look at it, so you're welcome to. Yes.
And Mike Van Dusen, the 1 for Dale Street Extension, I just want to reiterate the question that I asked before. And given what, the amount of homework that was just presented to you, is when violations like this occur and regulatory bylaws that we have for how zones are being utilized in this town, where the enforcement is. Because it seems like we have all these.
I will talk to the zoning, or the building commissioner, Brian Duvall, tomorrow about this and see what he can do. I don't know if we can padlock their gate going into there or what, but we'll see what we can do.
Richard, do you have the additional information that you had? Because I know that what you went through there was beyond the letter you sent us.
Yes, I do. I can.
Would you be able to share that with us like you did originally? So we have something to give to Brian Duval?
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful.
Also, if you could send it to the town planner so we can all have it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Here's Craig Range. Maybe a place to start would be, if they're in violation, which I think everybody kind of agrees to, that bond that was spoken of is $25,000, which is chump change. The town has the first right to put a claim in against it. That will start some people much above us.
That's a good point. We can check on that.
Pay for your, pay for the RFP.
Well, it has to be specifically used for,
Certain things.
certain things.
Depends how it's written.
Right. We'll have to
That's
check.
definitely something we're looking into.
Okay, I'm gonna move the meeting on. I appreciate everybody coming tonight. Yes?
Can I just say, thank you for staying so late to listen to all of our concerns for all these months and trying to get to the bottom of this, because I think that there's been a lot of revelations tonight. And we appreciate you taking the time to help us figure it all out. Thank you.
Thank you. So, any other public comments? I hate to even ask. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to assume that not everybody had a chance. I'm going to move that we postpone miscellaneous correspondence to the next week.
Yeah, a lot of it. That's okay.
Okay, I'm good. Okay, we good with that? Yeah. All right. And then, items not anticipated 30 hours prior to the meeting.
Excuse me. Before we go, just for that specific case where, especially the upper prospect property there, where that pretty steep drop is, especially given that the mitigation is going to take a while to get in place. You're going to have erosion problems there. That property, and the kids that live there are in probably the most immediate danger of anybody. So can somebody take a look at that and probably address that specifically, because that's probably an immediate one.
We're beginning to see kids on bikes going up there, and somebody's going to get hurt really bad.
Because it did.
I mean,
At this point, they're trespassing, so the police should be called.
all I'm telling you is there's kids there. Kids don't know that.
Well, we know that.
Kids don't.
Well, that's why I know we established that they were to put the no trespassing signs up.
They did not put any there are no signs saying anything at that site. Okay.
I got pictures.
Well, I'm talking on the boundary, which basically drops down to Prospect Street. There are no signs.
Sure, they don't have the signs in your backyards, I understand that.
That's where they've got to put them, not in my backyard, but, I mean, it's pretty sensible, just what he's saying.
Sure.
I'm just thinking, because there's kids there, that they're not going to.
If they're your kids, I would recommend to tell them not to go there.
Yeah.
I don't have any. If there's somebody else's kids, I would recommend you call the police.
That's trespassing.
Trespassing, so the police.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, I'll look into that at the house across the street. So.
You're right.
No, I'm not. I want to take a break.
You want to take a break, take a recess?
Yeah. It's 5 minutes or something.
5 minutes.
Okay, continuing with the regular public meeting, planning board meeting. I think we'll skip to number 14 on the agenda. The next regular scheduled meeting is 5/21.
We will try to schedule a meeting before that, hopefully 4:30. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the regular planning board meeting.
Second. I'll make a motion to close the regular, planning board meeting and open up the public deliberations for the public hearing.
For Ray Roberts.
For Ray Roberts, special permit
Okay.
on Hubbard Ave.
All right, so during the deliberations, the board only has the information that they've already gathered. There cannot be any other information provided, and no comments from the audience. So, did you find it? You got it. Yeah. That's it.
Stores the metal. That's what's beginning.
That's it.
December 23. Yeah, that's it. So, it's my opinion we should start with the existing special permit and make the changes we deem possible to that. So, the existing permit has 13 conditions. The first condition says the applicant has brought the property into compliance. I want to change that and have it read, the applicant must continue to bring the property into compliance with multiple provisions of Section 350-106.12C through planting vegetation in conformity with Section 350-106.12C and creating or completing earthen berms and walls complemented by plantings in conformity with Section 350-106.12C4, Section 350-106.12C5, and Section 350-106.12C6. I think, any other comments on that? I think condition number 2 is good.
Okay, condition 2 on the old permit, not the one they presented.
Correct.
Because there was something in there that
No,
I was going
we're going with the existing permit they're working off of now.
I
Okay,
mean, I think that's why we did the preliminary, we did the 1 year to make sure it was like a trial run, a test drive. Everything is fine within these parameters. So I concur to continue on.
number 3, I think is good the way it reads.
Yeah, that was fine.
Uh,
I think that's the same, they left that one the same on their new permit too. I had no objections on number 3.
Number 4, I think is good the way it is.
Number 4 is also the same on both applications, so I had no.
And I'd also like to note that the paperwork for certifying that the wall is certified and its location was submitted, showing that S&K has signed off on his wall. That was a question, I believe, by many people.
Yeah.
He's met all that obligation, and right here, we have proof.
Yep, we have that.
All right, number 5, I gave you guys a suggestion of what I think it should read. You get it, too? So it'll take a minute to look over that and see if you agree or if you think it should be changed. I think the existing number 5 is confusing the way it's worded. And I think this would clean it up. It would change the hours on Saturday, and it would change the rock crushing to the same as the DEP, is basically what it was. And then it also adds no operation of hours for holidays.
Yeah, I did see that. That was something that we needed to have.
Don, did you get that?
Yeah, I'm making it over right now.
Yeah, you can. Or you can get a copy of it.
I don't have a copy sheet here, unfortunately, so I'm gonna read you for what he's saying. Here. I got another copy. Oh, perfect.
Since Don's not here, I'll have an extra copy.
Excellent.
Only thing I would add is after, in the sentence, all rock crushing and ABC processing, including loading and unloading, will follow the DEP permit that is in place, which is 7/4/30 on day Friday. I would say on that, we'll follow the permit hours because they are separate from, it's sort of separate, but it would follow the same hours.
That is the DEP.
Right. So instead of just like, I feel like it implies that it's,
Well, it says the DEP permit, which is in place.
right, okay. That's fine.
So,
Put conditions, DEP permit conditions.
so I
Like mirror it, follow that is all.
And I mean, basically what I'm reading on your, is what I'm reading in the court papers from land court that was agreed upon. But I do have, I mean, I would like, there's a couple things with the national or state holidays. That really, there is so many, like, national holidays versus, you know, we have one coming, I believe, right now, Patriots Day. I mean, we're gonna tell the guy he can work on Patriots Day when it's really not, it's not a true holiday. I don't know what the board's pleasure is, but I would like to name the 6 major holidays or 5, whatever the 5 major holidays are for our nation. I feel if it's the board's pleasure to not want him to work, I just feel that putting national and state holidays, I mean, if somebody wanted to bust his chops, there's a
You
lot
want
of,
to take off state holidays and just do national?
maybe federal holidays?
Federal?
Is that 6? There's 6, I think 6. That's why I'm thinking about naming them. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, we'll list, I think we should list them. Then there's no, but the ones I was thinking was Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, 4th of July.
There's 11 annual federal holidays.
Labor Day.
Memorial Day.
Labor Day.
Labor Day. I don't know, I mean, I just feel that we can't.
Veterans Day?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what, I think it just, there's so many holidays and I just don't feel we should restrict him like that. You know, to me, the major holidays are Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day. That in my mind, that was the 6th or whatever that is. Those are the main, I think that everybody's pretty much in our country celebrates, whether you're in Massachusetts or in Texas.
You don't have to list these because it's always on a Sunday.
Okay. Fair.
Good Friday.
No, I just, if we're gonna restrict a holiday, I don't think we gotta name them.
I never had Good Friday off, so I looked at
Me neither. How many did you end up with?
There's 11.
We named 5 major ones though.
Which one see that?
Christmas, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and 4th of July.
New Year's.
Labor Day, Memorial Day are the only 2 that I would consider that.
Yeah. You don't have those?
I have Labor Day and Memorial Day.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Christmas, New Year.
Christmas, Thanksgiving. So my place of business, we only close at Christmas and Thanksgiving, period. That's all we do for our visitors center, but,
I mean, this to me, I'd like to think
are they all on
the,
Same.
I'm just saying, I'd like to think that the holidays,
These would be the ones that most people would complain on.
That's what that's sort of what I'm guessing.
Summertime, you know, people in the summer having their little barbecues and stuff and or whatever, so. I mean, I'm okay with these ones.
New Year's Day, I mean, everybody usually gets New Year's Eve off. I don't know, you know,
It's in the middle.
I don't, it's in the middle of the winter. I don't feel that that's a,
Yeah, that's not- I mean, because this all kind of relatively matches what I was gonna do. Because I was gonna go through on each one of them with all the different time things and go back to the old time. If there was the need for any compromise, I would have given maybe an extra hour for vehicle loading and unloading or something. At the ends, went to 7 to 7, but I was more or less 7 to 6 on everything.
So we'll change the holidays then. No hours of operation will be allowed on Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and 4th of July.
Okay. I'm good with it.
And that would be condition 5 here.
Yeah.
and I mean, and more importantly, I think that, I mean, the courts, we got a court document here that shows that pretty much,
it's what all parties.
It's what all parties agreed upon. I don't think that, it's just a holiday thing, and even in the court paper, I'm like, well, there's a lot of holidays that somebody could just come around the corner and say, hey, it's Hanukkah, or, I don't know, I mean, I just feel that, yeah, I know, I'm just picking a holiday that is, you know, specific, not everybody. But I think by naming them, I don't think there's anybody can say,
Well, no matter what you put, somebody will complain about not including their holiday.
well, I understand that.
We'll go with this for now, and if there's enough complaints, one way or the other, we'll do something different next year. So let's go on to number 6. I don't think there's any changes need to be made there.
Excuse me, Zach. So no changes other than those holidays? So we're using
Correct.
number 5 and then holidays.
We'll
Got it.
take out, will be allowed on, no hours of operation will be allowed on Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July.
Good.
So 5.
Five.
5 holidays.
Like you said.
I just, yeah, I thought it was 5. You guys got me to 7, I don't know how you got me there.
Okay with that, Don?
I'm okay with that.
All right. Number 6, I think is good.
Yeah.
Number 7, I think is good. Number 8, I think is good. That is also, number 8 is also required by the UP permit.
To be locked, yeah, that, I found that one missing from the submitted application. There was no mention of a time when it would be locked. So I was gonna make that suggestion.
Is secured being locked, or is secured just having a gate across, or a?
Secure trucks can't go in there.
Okay.
Number 9, I think is good.
So, you know, the stockpile height, I do understand what he's saying, there. I don't know,
If it matters.
I don't know, honestly, in that particular area,
Well, the higher the piles are,
the more likely.
the more likely stuff will blow off the site. So that's what, that's the reason we came up with 20 to begin with.
And how high are the walls?
12, I think. Well, will be depending on the.
So you haven't had issues with, like, the boards? I don't remember any complaints over the quiet heights from anybody.
As far as being 20?
Yeah.
Everybody always says they're higher than that, but if you actually look at them, they're not.
Yes.
So, people have complained about them being too high.
But he stayed within his.
But they are not over the 20 foot, from what I've observed. Okay, number 11 is not going to change, it's still going to have to be there. And number 12.
No changes to 10, sorry.
Right, no changes to 10. Number 12, this special permit. Yeah,
Just one thing about, I think was 11, the entrance to the property. I think we should maybe just touch briefly on that.
That's 8 done.
number 8 is the entrance. It says, "The entrance of the property shall be secured beyond the hours of operation, specifically restricting access to the manufacturing area."
Right, so if we're talking the entrance to the property, and I thought I mentioned it somewhere else too, number 11, it mentions it also.
No, it's only number 8 that mentions the entrance, the securing the property. He's only securing it to the manufacturing area. There's quite a bit of area beyond where he is securing it now.
Okay, I must be looking at one of the older permits.
Okay. Did you want to add something to number 8?
I just wanted to put it out there, and I think I mentioned this before. I don't think I voted on this last year. I think I was absent, but I did mention this once before with the amount of allegations of him working, and people say he's working, he says he's not working. It would be advantageous for him to install a security camera. That way, you could actually see the crusher, and if he's saying he's not there, and the noises are coming from somebody else, and then complaints are getting registered, at least we would have some type of proof that it wasn't him.
Yeah.
And it's just could be a recommendation for himself.
Yeah, I think I also mentioned that last year, right?
Yeah, I believe, because I think we all understand that all the neighbors around there are kind of doing the same thing that he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's trying to say that he isn't doing it, and somebody else. But if he was able to put something in to validate that, that would be pretty helpful for him and the neighbors.
Yep.
Put a suggestion in there to mount a camera.
You can add it to number 8 if you want to have a camera in the area showing when people are going in and out of the property, or when people are working on the property.
Does that mean, it wouldn't be a mandate, it would be a suggestion?
You could do it as a suggestion.
You want to do it as a suggestion, Don?
I think it would be good, I would make a motion to add a suggestion.
Yep.
To have camp facing the gated off area and the crusher, just for proof of him not running it.
I'll second that, I agree with that.
Okay, well, you want to write something up?
Yeah.
We'll just make it number 14.
Okay, number 14.
Robert's going to write it up and put it on number 14, okay, Don?
That's fine.
So number 11 was, there shall be no interference with the current drainage of Green Ridge development and other adjacent properties. That's part of the conservation, one of the Conservation Commission requirements. That doesn't change.
The special permit shall elapse on December 17th, 2025, and that means he needs to have an application in by the middle of November for that to happen.
The other thing about this is the permit is just gonna be, continue to be on a annual basis.
For now, it's going to be on an annual basis until we don't have complaints every year.
Okay.
I mean, in the future, we could, if we do have that, we could, I mean, I don't mind totally the number 12 that they have in their permit. Where, I mean, it says that it doesn't lapse, but the conditions may be modified if requested. With 3 substantiated violations.
I don't think we want to do that right now.
Right, I'm just saying in the future years, maybe next year we could consider those terms.
Yep.
Just something to think
All right, so I'm adding to number 12, must have application in by mid-November 2025. And then number 13, I think is still good. And number 14, you added.
So 14, I added a suggestion of putting a camera at entrance of property to help with proof of meeting the special permits, hours, and restrictions.
Yeah, and the crusher was, I think, white things were giraffe
Entrance,
right?
entrance and crusher. But it's
So just a suggestion.
so just a suggestion.
Could I have a specific date on number 12? Mid-November is broad.
November 15th.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Anything else? Anything else, Don?
No, was that the last one?
Yes.
Okay, what about the, screening of topsoil and all that stuff? Is that all
He
part
can
of
do
this?
that during his normal hours of operation from 7 to 6, Monday through Friday, and Saturday, 8 to 2. I believe.
Yeah, in the, Don, did you get the, suggested number 5, the?
Yeah, he got it. I don't think the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, because I mean, they're, the ones in here with emergency bases, I was gonna suggest to have the, you know, building inspector to be contacted or something for those beyond hours and, there was a lot of things that I could go through this.
No, seriously, that's one of these other ones for it's number. Here. It's gonna sit all out there. I'm gonna copy your thing. I'm gonna do it so I can go to you.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way it is straightforward. I mean, we made a new one last year, so.
And I just want to, I want to just go back to number 6 and that's his hours of operation for maintenance. There's, I want to make it clear that he has the right to maintain his equipment. He may have to start his equipment and move his equipment, and I think sometimes if people hear a loader running, say on a Sunday, well, he might have parked his loader in the back of his lot, and he needs to bring it out front. I don't think, and I think we need to be very careful that if there's complaints, I think we need to be very specific that if there is a complaint, that we need to make sure that wasn't a screener running, and what, you know, he has the right to fix his and service his equipment. And I think that needs to be very clear, and I think that's clear on number 6. But I just, as, you know, for the minutes, I really would like to make sure that he is allowed unrestricted time to go, fix his equipment.
Through the chair, I thought we did that a couple of years ago, that.
Yeah, it's in there. It was split between 2 pages down, and I missed the side that said he full access. So, you know, so I just wanted to reiterate, that, make it clear that, we could hear.
It was also to maintain the property,
Yes.
also.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yep. Yeah, it was on the second page on my sheet, Don, so I didn't see the unrestricted activity for noise, for maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's still restricted by the noise bylaw, so.
I mean,
So is there anything you'd like to change on that?
no, I don't, now that I saw the second half of it, I think it's fine. Yeah.
So with just the one, we made one change on condition 1.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Well,
Number 12.
12.
The renewal December 17, 2025.
And
May I-
created 14.
yeah, we made it 14.
Suggested putting cameras at the entrance and crusher to help prove of meeting the special permit hours and restrictions. It's just a suggestion.
Yes.
Anything else? You got anything else on?
No, I'm good.
Karen? No. Let's get this guy back to work.
It's almost 10 o'clock, you can't work out.
Wrong one.
All right, so all in favor of the special permit as revised? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor then? The permit is that. I got a copy. This stuff down here is not. This up there is that. I replaced that with that. And that is good.
Thank you.
So I'll entertain a meeting and close the deliberations. A motion to close the deliberations.
Make a motion to close the, deliberations on the Ray Roberts, special permit.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, John's an aye also. Okay. Thanks, everybody. You ready to go home? That's it. We're done.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, we are adjourned. We just.
Second.
Did it.